camera, Adelaide.
Hi.
And that's on having a lot of childhood videos. Hey everyone, it's Adelaide Winterstep. Go ahead and make sure to check my community tab to find out why the heck I'm back on this channel. But before we get into it, I've been trying to make this exact video for years but was never happy with it. So I hope you guys like this finalized product that I'm finally satisfied with and have a great time watching. From birth, I was always a super nature-loving girl, and so growing up in Valedale was the ultimate heaven to satisfy all of this. I loved roaming around and playing in the mud, but also, Valedale had this reputation in Jorvik for being the cutesy cottage village with incredibly beautiful nature, and it really did live up to that. I lived in this fairy tale-like cottage, and it was just this whole lifestyle that I adored. I lived there with my mom. My dad wasn't really in the picture, but I was super duper close with her from the start, and she videoed every single bit of my riding from the start. She was always a super supportive mom, and on my birthday, when I had my first horseback ride, she videoed it and told me the day after, "You will be the light of 18 someday for all the horse world." And that is where my horse journey starts. From there on out, I rode every horse I was allowed to ride in the lesson barn, and I learned so much within my first few years of riding. I had my first canter and bolt in the same exact lesson, all on film. What a great, memorable experience, not gonna lie, that kind of scared me, but it's fine. I also had my first bitless and bareback ride in the same lesson as well, and that was a blast. And to this day, that still sticks with me as a rider. I love bareback and bitless riding. It's just a blast. I also had my first jump on this little cob mare named Lacey, and that was super memorable, and that's what led me to like eventing later because I had such good memories from the start that I never really got any fear, which was great. At the age of 9, we actually had to move from Valedale to Moorland, which Moorland at the time was like this horse central area. It was a range of just pastures and paddocks and nature, but also horse arenas and barns and stables and lesson programs, and it was heaven. I moved there with my mom because she was actually going to become a trainer at Moorland at the time, so we got to live in this cute little cottage right outside of the stable, and it was heaven. My mom got for me this Arabian mare I named Kyle at the time. I made a lot of edits of her, as you can see. But I had a blast being with friends and part of the lesson program, going to summer camps, and just experiencing what a typical horse girl at the age of like 9 or 10 would want to experience. It was heaven for me, and this is where I learned most of my English writing. I never really delved into Western as much, just because I found English writing a lot more accessible in the area. You'll see a lot of these pictures early on. I was one of the better riders in my group, so we're doing pretty okay there. I also met a lot of friends, including Justin Moorland, who at the time was just a little stable boy, the son of the stable owner, and this picture, I was so nervous. I was blushing the whole time. I think I did have a crush on him. Now at the barn, there was a lot of pressure. There were a lot of really professional riders going to the barn, gorgeous girls with amazing horses, incredible riders, part of the club team, and I felt so much pressure, along with a lot of the other girls, to just kind of live up to this expectation. So I started a social media account. I showed off my little outfits, my horse, and honestly, I really did enjoy it. It gave me the sense of like pride that I was owning a horse and riding, and it gave me encouragement to keep going. My mom also bought for me a video camera early on, and I made a YouTube called Horses for Life. I'm gonna give you guys a sneak peek of one of my videos because you'll love it. So here you go. As amazing as my content was, I did get bullied so much from the get-go. It really did get to me at first, being called spoiled and cringy and a terrible writer, but I eventually used it to my advantage, saying that I would one day prove them wrong and become the best writer in Jorvik. I used that as my momentum, and as I matured and got older, not only did my fashion sense improve, but also did my writing and my viewpoint of my writing career. My mom really helped me fund for a mare named Amy, who was a quarter horse that I had found who I loved, and I went into hunter riding with this particular mare for about a year when I was 16 until 17. It was a really awesome experience to kind of close off my high school. With this, when I turned 17, I had to choose a college to go to, and SSOStables was offering an eventing team plus a barn management degree in one package. And I was like, of course I have to try to get into this. Of course I have to apply. So for the application, I had to send in a video of my experience with horses. And you can imagine this video was fancy. I borrowed the best horse in the barn and I showed off my skill set. It really was not a good video, but it's fine. We turned it in and I was like, you know what? We just got to give it a try. Jorvegian at the time was so prestigious, but I was like, you know what? Really can't hurt. I can't lose anything if I at least give it a go. And a few days later, I got in the mail an acceptance letter from Jorvegian Stables. As ecstatic as I was, I knew Amy was not cut out for the kind of eventing atmosphere of the university, so I wanted to go horse shopping to try and find a horse that I could work with. I shopped for literally months and couldn't find a single horse that I liked. That was until I came across a 2009 Hanoverian gelding, Berkeley, who was just so fantastic and the sweetest soul. I actually ended up training with him for the next 2 to 3 years of my university experience. I trained 6 days a week, multiple hours every single day to get this horse into tip-top shape for the eventing team, which in order to keep the points high, I had to place high in local and international competitions. So obviously I was in a very competitive spirit the entire time, constantly training, but it was a great taster for me of the eventing world and the prestigious level that Jorvegian Stables was held at, and I honestly think it really got me into the competitive side of horses, which is a whole different side. At this time also, though, I was studying so much. Hours each day, staying up so late every night to catch up on my work, because keep in mind, this wasn't just a team, but also a degree for barn management and like business management. So I really had to get my stuff together and work towards this common goal to pass my exams. And you can see that I had to vlog to keep myself motivated. That's at the level we were at. At the age of 20, I graduated from university, and fresh out of university, I decided to apply for a barn management job as a manager at Silverglade Equestrian. So I contacted them. I wasn't expecting to get the job being so fresh out of the gate, if that's the phrase, but I did end up getting it and becoming co-workers with Reed Kessler. We actually later became partial co-owners, but that's another story for another time. Nonetheless, Silverglade Equestrian was the best place on earth. Jobs around the barn really did vary. A few of the tasks I had were administrative. That means making different schedules, sending emails, like schedules like this, for instance, with lesson times and also what lesson horses were going to be used on what days, figuring out logistics, things like that, and also like turning out, like how are you going to turn out the horses with each other at certain times. On top of this, I also had to train some of the horses at the barn. If no one wanted to take them on, it was usually me who took it, which was a good challenge nevertheless. And I also had to teach lessons if some of our riding instructors called in sick or just weren't able to come to work. I usually took their lessons over for them, and I really actually learned to love it. Like, it became my favorite job in the barn, and I think my students kind of loved it too because I gave them a lot of praise and they just got attention, like a lot of attention. On top of this, I also had barn chores. That means feeding, watering the horses, grooming, cleaning up after every single person in the barn that the groom didn't work after, and taking horses out, taking horses in. That's when I got my exercise, and also cleaning tack because that had to be done and no one wanted to do it. Keep in mind, at the time I was also showing Margot full-time Kensington every year, top competitions every single weekend, and on top of that I had to manage 7 to 8 other horses that I personally owned. I'd usually hand them off to other advanced students if I could because who has that much time? But I was a horse hoarder, and I wouldn't admit it back then, but I will shamefully admit it now. I also reconnected and started dating Justin Moorland from grade school, which, as crazy as it sounds, it was just an incredible experience, and honestly, he's always been kind of my shelter in the storm and my fullest supporter, so it was really crucial I had him there to support me. But with every great story also comes a fall and a burnout, and that's what happened for me around the age of 22 to 23. I was actually riding Cloud 9 that day, and I had a jumping accident. 911, what is your emergency? One of the riders, she just had an accident, and she's like not waking up. All right, we're on our way. We'll be right there. This was when I decided I needed to go to Fort Pinta because not only was the entire process too much for me physically because I broke so many bones, but mentally I realized how burned out I was. I love Fort Pinta because there were horses, but not too much. There was people, but not too many, you know what I mean? And there was also a side of nature that I had always needed. So I moved to an apartment there for 6 whole months and had this peace and quiet for myself so that I could reflect back on what my purpose in my career was. And I just took some time to take some self-improvement and just reflect on what was going on around me instead of being so caught up in the whirlwind. I finally decided that I needed to resign from my head position at SEC and return to a life that was a little bit more manageable for me. As sad as this was, I actually came back just about 6 to 12 months ago, and I'm loving life now. My mom, as a welcoming gift, gave me back Amy, whom I had left at the Moorland writing program when I left for university, and that was just such a welcoming home gift that I just felt was so incredibly personal. Also, in an event to get back into eventing just a little bit less intensely, I actually purchased a horse to help me kind of re-enter that zone, and it was Dante's Inferno, who I'm adore, and he's just the most incredible horse, and I've already gone to a few competitions with him, and it's honestly just so much more relaxed now. I've also kind of found my refocus in life towards a career that I've always kind of been interested in but never had the time for previously, and that is horse journalism. I put it into my Jorvegian magazine, into all my articles about different riders and all these different clothes and trends, and also my videos for my SSOStables YouTube, which will actually now be transferring to this channel with videos that you can watch about other riders. I honestly just had so much fun with this because I could just meet such an incredible range of riders as well as their horses and hear all of these incredible stories and kind of just get out there instead of staying in my own cocoon and shell at my original home stable. Through all of this also, I ended up getting engaged to Justin Moorland and married, and we now live happily together as a couple. Life is really, really good. So I want to thank you all for listening to my life story and being here for the majority of it. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you for 30K, and I hope to see you all next time.